All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Happy Thursday, everyone. And just want to welcome you. We have a really great show lineup for you today. And today we're going to do a little bit more of a clinical topic, which I love. We are here with Diane Rishkoff. So excited to have you, Diane.
Thank you.
Welcome. From Health Takes Guts Incorporated. So, very much true to her business name, we are going to be delving into gut health today, right? So,
Right.
so many people nowadays are struggling with gut health. And I know in the work that I do, I work with lots and lots of practitioners who are specializing in this particular area. So really happy to have Diane. So let me give a quick overview of some of the things that we're going to cover for you today. Okay, kind of a wide breadth of gut related topics. So the main thing, the title, Gut Healing Made Clear, and how to catapult your expertise, get better patient outcomes, and feel confident, which obviously in this particular area is so important. So, the long and short is Diana's going to be sharing some of her secret sauce in terms of how she works with patients that are struggling with various types of gut health issues, her philosophy in terms of, dietary changes, testing, and supplements. And so I think you're going to get a ton of value today. So before I jump in, by the way, I'm Leslie Bytel. For those of you that don't know me, welcome. So happy to have you here with me. And so I just want to give Diane a nice warm welcome. And Diane, tell us a little bit about how you ended up here as like kind of, really a go-to expert in the area of the functional approach to helping people deal with gut health issues.
Well, I became a dietitian 17 years ago, and I was always into science. I was always into digestion. I have Crohn's disease myself, which is
Oh,
bowel disease.
wow.
But regular conventional dietetics did not really do much in that area for like really serious gut issues. But nonetheless, I liked being a dietitian. And then when my health kept getting worse and my health took a turn, that's when I was like, there's got to be more out there. That was about 10 years ago. And I was like, there's got to be more answers. And that's when I found functional nutrition. I was like, yes,
Fine.
underlying causes, root causes, not all this just suppressing things with medication. So I love the ideas that functional medicine has already, put forth about getting to the root of the issue, which is always, there's some, we can talk about that, but always some kind of microbial piece. There's always an inflammatory piece. There's often stress and food pieces and so on. But that's what did it. And it helped my personal health, and it helped all of a sudden my patient outcomes went from night to day. So,
Oh my gosh. And I don't think, I've known you for a long time. We've been in this world kind of, crossing paths. I didn't know that you yourself struggled with Crohn's. When were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed when I was 18.
Okay.
Um, so, that's a big deal. And then I went away to college anyway. I didn't let it stop me, but I was pretty sick in college, and then in my 20s and so on.
I'll
And
bet.
we're fine. Since for the past 10 years, I'm doing much better, much
Yeah.
better.
So I'll bet when you were diagnosed, you got all the meds, right?
Yeah, all I got was meds, and I didn't know. And I asked about diet, and they were like, "Oh, well, and they gave me some advice, and I didn't quite whatever. And that's why I became a dietitian. I was like, let's find out what else is going on. But like I said, it didn't quite answer it either.
Yeah,
Eventually,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I have several clients that specialize in IBD, and one has IBD herself, and the other one's husband is has that diagnosis. So I think that firsthand experience is definitely helpful in understanding what your patient or client is going through, especially when it comes to IBD, right?
Well, I think firsthand experience is huge in two ways. One, you really can connect with the client. You know what they're going through. You know how to help them with expectations and also give them hope because look, you're doing well. And I also think it gives me a lot of motivation. That's where I got here. I mean, I took every course, read every book because I have all this personal and professional interest. So it gave me a lot of motivation to kind of get the expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. So they threw a bunch of meds at you. Obviously, you didn't get a whole lot of results. And from what I hear from my clients that work with patients in this area is unfortunately, like our medical system does not really acknowledge the role that diet can play
Right.
in this particular diagnosis, right? It's kind of like, well, it's all meds for the most
Well,
part. And
for IBD, they do that. And I would say IBS, which is completely different and not the same disease, but IBS, 10 times a day I hear from people, well, I have IBS, I've had it for decades, and the doctor says diet has absolutely nothing to do with it. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, because IBS is there's nothing actually wrong. Like with Crohn's and colitis, there's something actually medically wrong. With IBS, there's nothing wrong, which means it's all about diet, stress, microbes, and so on. With IBD, those things play a huge role, certainly diet, supplements, and so on. But there's actually a disease there too. Whereas IBS, there's nothing actually there. That's where we come in,
It's that catch-all diagnosis. Yeah. So give us kind of the scope of who you work with under that big umbrella of gut issues.
Yeah. So pretty much, anybody who has digestive issues, even GERD and gastritis, but I do love and really excel at IBS and IBD.
Okay.
And anything functional like that, the whole IBS family. I mean, IBS to me is the beginning. It's like, okay, you have IBS, the doctor has dismissed you. Now what do we got here? Microbial dysbiosis, SIBO, not enough stomach acid, not enough enzyme. There's always something going on. And all those things apply to IBD as well. Food sensitivities, inflammation, leaky gut, they're all there for all those people. So IBS and IBD and just sort of chronic constipation or even if they haven't been diagnosed with IBS, the same kind of symptoms, bloating, cramping, unable to eat this, unable to eat that, reactions to foods, those are all in the same category of, what we can do with functional nutrition.
Exactly. Yeah. So interesting. And I assume SIBO fits in there.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
All right. And what about food sensitivities?
Yeah, well, food sensitivities are real,
Yeah, where do food sensitivities fit in
sometimes they're a key part. Sometimes food sensitivities are one of the root causes, and gluten sensitivity, for instance, absolutely causes leaky gut, causes all these problems. But other times, food sensitivities are a consequence. Somebody has dysbiosis and leaky gut, and their immune system's all frazzled and they're having inflammation, and then anything they eat becomes a food sensitivity. And so then the root cause is not the actual food, it's we have to heal the gut. So it's kind of hard to tease that out, but certainly it can be the root. And I would say oftentimes it's not, but it's definitely part of their picture. People experience food sensitivity all the time.
So give us kind of an overview of, your I guess your approach, like where do you start? And if you can kind of break down your philosophy for us a little bit, just so that our audience can get a better understanding of your approach and what to do when they see these patients in their practice.
Yeah. So, well, I'm a big fan of the 5R protocol, which is, developed by, Dr. Jeffrey Bland and, the father of functional medicine. And so it's not mine originally. I wish I could take credit, but I can't.
It's quite brilliant, right?
It's quite brilliant because it's tailored to the patient. So, you can't, unfortunately, you can't just learn one protocol, 5R protocol, and you're done, but you can frame every case in terms of, okay, these are the steps that we need to take. These are the pieces of the puzzle. So again, microbes, diet, digestion. So, 1R is remove, which you remove like inflammatory foods and you remove microbes. Another R is replace or restore, where you're replacing their digestive stomach acid, enzymes, and bile if they need it. Another R is repair, where you're repairing the leaky gut. Another R is reinoculate, for putting in good stuff like probiotics, prebiotics, resistant starch. Another R is relax, for stress, because stress is huge. We cannot forget about stress. Everybody's stressed, and that will sabotage anything else we do. So then I can just, when I was a little bit younger and I was a little bit less confident, the 5R really helped me. Just that way I was like, okay, I know what to do. I know what to do, because I'll just put this case and I'll say, what do I need to remove? What needs to be replaced? Like, it's just a very nice, organized way. And then you've got yourself covered, as opposed to just like, oh my God, this case is so complicated, I have no idea what to do. At least it's a framework. And so that's what I love. And I continue to use it, and I now teach it to other dietitians.
I love that. Can you go into more detail in terms of like your approach within, I don't know, either all or even a couple of those R's?
Yeah, sure. So I have a couple of pearls, that I always say to my mentoring clients, and I'll say it to here, which is, for diet, we want to take out anything that is obviously causing people problems.
Oh boy, hang on. Keep going. I have my dog scratching on the screen. Oh, they're going to go nuts. All righty. Say hello. This is Piper. She's excited because somebody's here. All right. Sorry about that, Diana. I'll put myself on mute till things calm down here.
That's okay.
You go live, right, guys? You never know.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. I was just saying that we want to balance taking out things that are inflammatory or disruptive to their, symptoms, but I like to have them on the least restrictive diet possible, the most varied, and the least, we don't want to incite fear and food anxieties and possible eating disorders. So the least restrictive as possible. And yet also, let's see, maybe they do need to eat less sugar, alcohol, gluten, etc. So that's my general philosophy with food. And then my philosophy with supplements is also balanced, in that we need to use them. They're really key for these gut health pieces. I think, most, not all, but most cases cannot be dealt with diet alone. We need to fix the dysbiosis and, give them some more stomach acid, whatever the case is. And so we need supplements. We shouldn't be afraid to use them. They're in our scope of practice. We should learn about them first and become knowledgeable, but we shouldn't be afraid to use them. And we should never put anyone on a supplement they don't need. We should never keep them on supplements longer than they need. So we do have to be careful and responsible, and try and be the least, they should be on the least amount of stuff that they need.
Absolutely.
So those are my those things. Yeah.
Your pearls. Yes. I love that. Do you have any, favorite supplements in terms of categories that you tell the most?
Sure. For removing dysbiosis or SIBO or parasites, whatever, my go-tos are Biocidin and Paragard. So Biocidin is by Biobotanicals, and it's got a lot of research behind it, and it's got a few things in it like oregano oil and black walnut oil. And then Paragard is by Integrative Therapeutics, and it has garlic and berberine and wormwood. So together, those two really that's a broad spectrum amount of antimicrobials. And that's, of course, only if someone needs it, but a lot of people need it. A lot of people have dysbiosis and SIBO. So.
Awesome. And then in terms of determining their level of dysbiosis, or, kind of nailing what the problem is, tell us a little bit about how you go about doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point, because not everyone is going to need or respond, to just Biocidin and Paragard, because the question is, do they have SIBO? Now, SIBO breath tests are something we can order. They're also something they can get at the doctor's office, and it'll be paid for by insurance, and so on. But if they have, hydrogen SIBO, I would be more looking at, the oregano oil and neem and berberine, which, by the way, the Biocidin and Paragard kind of covers some of that. But if they have methane dominant SIBO, I would be looking more at allicin from garlic. So I might use Alamax or Alamed as the products for sure, if someone has that. And still maybe some Biocidin or something just to round out. Your Biocidin does a really good job of creating a good environment in there so that the good stuff can happen. And then if someone has, I do stool testing if to see dysbiosis is really clear on, for instance, the GI map, which is the thing I like the best. Not everybody has to do that though. If someone's had IBS for 30 years and they have diarrhea and constipation and bloating and we know they have dysbiosis, so we don't have to charge them for these expensive tests. But I do like the GI map if someone's interested, and then you can see like there's a whole dysbiosis page and it has all those different bacteria that are not supposed to be there, the Citrobacter, the Klebsiella, and so on. And we could say, oh, there's a lot of dysbiosis here. We need this good broad spectrum acting antimicrobials, or look, you know what, there's not that much dysbiosis. Maybe we should focus on the other R's, the repair and the remove and not remove, the replace, and so on. So.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and so you use GI map kind of as your first line.
I do.
Is that Genova?
No, GI map is Diagnostic Solutions Labs.
Oh, right. Okay.
The GI Effects is Genova. It's good. Great Plains Labs has a comprehensive stool test. Vibrant has a gut zoomer. I mean, they're all good, and they all have a place. Awesome. I like the map. I just use it. It's a little bit cheaper, also.
So yeah, and obviously many of people in our audience today. Hello, Jan. By the way, hey Jan, good to see you. Are dietitians, and at least in my experience, Genova is not always the easiest to work with when you're an RD, right?
That's right. That's why I don't use it, actually. I can't order from Genova.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any states that allow ordering in Genova, from Genova, if you're an RD?
I don't know. Massachusetts and can't. But I know there are other ways to get around it, like the Rupa or whatever it is. But I haven't. I've got for 10 years now. I've got my account with all these different places, and I just use.
You're kind of used to it, so yeah. Why? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I'd love to hear from our audience in terms of any questions that you guys might have. We've got the expert here, so bring it on, right? I'm sure Diane would be happy to offer some insight in terms of, any of your questions. And yeah, so tell us a little bit about your so basically in the work that you're doing right now, you're still working with patients, right, that have gut issues, and you're also helping other practitioners. So tell us a little bit about how you balance that. Are you focusing more in one area? Tell us specifically the work you're doing.
So I do still see patients one-on-one, and I still love that. But I really love mentoring other dietitians. I got into that about 5 years ago, and so I started mentoring people one-on-one in terms of both building a functional medicine practice and how do you get into the labs and the supplements, but also cases. They have this case, they don't want to feel alone, they don't feel confident, and so I would help them with cases. So I did that with people one-on-one, just as appointments, as needed. Could be once a week, could be once a year. So that was great. I loved that. And then I developed, I wrote an ebook about the 5R, and then I developed my course for other dietitians or health professionals on gut healing. And then I have my group mentoring, which kind of came out of the course. It's separate from the course, and you don't have to do both, but it kind of is complementary, where that we have a group. It's a great group of a community. We meet twice a month, and it's cheaper than the one-on-one mentoring, but you still get help with your cases, and you definitely don't feel alone because there's 30 of us, and so it's great. So I have those services, and I love that. I love the course, and I love the mentoring, the group mentoring.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And by the way, hey Gina, how are you? Gina said that Florida, you can now order from Genova, which is, I knew there was like one, maybe two states that where you could order from Genova. So super interesting. I know Illinois is not one of them because I tried and it was not going to happen. So, but anyway, I appreciate some of those alternatives, Diane. Let's see. So we got a question from Jan. So Jan, hey Jan. Jan's wondering lately about GI map. Recently, another functional practitioner shared a 3-split sample results. And except for one pathogen, appeared to be 3 different patients? Have you ever done split samples with them?
No, I'm not sure. I mean, they only ask for one sample in a kit, the GI
Right.
map. Nova sometimes asks for several, like 3. But if you order GI map, it's one sample. So I'm not sure how this came back with 3 split sample results. What I do know though is that things change a lot, and meaning in the gut. And so I've had people take the GI map, multiple times, and it's very different. And maybe that's because of what we're doing, or maybe it's because the microbiome changes, even by how you slept and so on. And so we have to take the GI map as okay, she's clarifying. But anyway, we still take the GI map with a grain of salt. They sent 3 different names, same person, same day. That is odd. It's not good. Doesn't sound good, right? I've never done that. Yeah. I've never tried all that. Yeah, but
So
maybe it's different because, like, if the same person, same day, now we're talking about stool that maybe was in their rectum, and then stool that was in their large intestine, and then stool that was up from their small intestine. So that also could be why there's different microbes. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think in general, this is probably why I said earlier, like, if we know that the person has a variety of symptoms and their history is such and such, and things we can't go into in too much depth right now, but like, we don't need a test to tell us that they need help in these areas, because these tests are great, but they're not perfect. And so why not spare them the expense of
and like, who would want to do that, right?
Right, that's it. Right.
That too. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I like that philosophy, because I would just imagine that. Yeah, I would just imagine that it's for a lot of people. Yeah, they just wouldn't want to do it. Is my guess.
And they don't want to pay for it. They don't want to pay for it. I'm very, 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 not. I don't pressure anybody to do any tests, because and they've gone to functional medicine doctors, and the doctors have been like, I need to do this, and that, or test, and it's turned off the patient. And I'm like, no, you're not going to get that from me at all. We're going to talk a lot about your history. We're going to talk about what happened in your life that caused these various, health challenges. And I can kind of see, we got the 5R going. We don't need a test,
Exactly, right? Like, just use critical thinking. I totally see where tests fit. But I feel at the same time, and I think we concur, that a lot of times you can help the person with the data that you have, right?
Exactly.
And then if it doesn't, like, if your plan isn't working, or if the patient's not improving, then testing can be awesome. Honestly, in some cases, this is kind of going back to my nutrition days. Some people are like, let's just do it. Like, I want to get there faster. I don't want to experiment. And I would say, okay, well, let's do testing then, but for other people,
exactly. It's up to the client. It's up to the client entirely. And I can use critical thinking. That's a great way of putting it, critical thinking. And that's what I try and teach in the course and the mastermind. It's critical thinking, because if someone can't afford it, that doesn't mean we can't help them. Doesn't want to do it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that philosophy. I think, yeah, Delia. Hey, Delia, I know you. How are you? So are a lot of people seeking help for IBS?
Oh yeah. All day long, all day, every day. I get emails of, people, because the doctors aren't very helpful, and so doctors are very dismissive. Oh, IBS means you don't have anything wrong with you. There's nothing on your colonoscopy. You don't have cancer. You don't have celiac. Go home. And so absolutely, people are seeking help for IBS. Everybody's got IBS. I mean, not everybody, but it seems like a lot of people. And they're discouraged, and they're not getting any help elsewhere. So we are the perfect people to help with IBS. I mean, IBD, they need a doctor for sure. But IBS, doctor's not helpful. So that's where we shine, because that's when it is food, and it is, dysbiosis, and it is stress. So that's where we come in for sure.
Yeah. And Jan, amen. Running 10 tests when 1 or 2 will do. Yeah. I love that. That's such a good philosophy. Yeah. And then Jan, so many people diagnosed with IBS have celiac. Oh, interesting. That's a whole nother topic, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
They should go get that sorted out with the doctor, because that's what the doctor can, test for, and so can we. But the doctor can test for that.
Yeah. And then I don't know who sent this in. I can't see the name, but I think this person's asking you, Diane, if you take insurance and wanting to know a little bit more if you have any experience with functional gut practices via insurance.
Yeah, I do. I do take insurance, and it's a good question and a good topic, and because it's a very good question, and there's a longer answer, but basically it's because I'm an RD and I'm licensed in Massachusetts, I can accept insurance, and then I'm doing kind of unconventional stuff, but the insurance companies are okay with that, I guess, because I have my license and I'm an RD, so it goes fine. But and people love it because they're used to paying thousands of dollars for their functional medicine practitioners, and here I am taking their insurance. So I think it's also really helped. I can treat a less wealthy clientele and people who need it, and so on. And so in terms of the functional piece, I don't think that's been a real problem with the insurance. I just know that I can tell you there's a lot of it's tricky to accept insurance. There's a lot of hassles. There's a lot of now they've cut our, I don't know if this is happening elsewhere, but Massachusetts, 2 big companies have cut our pay, and I'm like, so I'm getting less money.
Oh my God, I did not know that. Oh, that's
so
terrible.
that kind of stuff is annoying, is very tricky, but that's technically, in terms of what you're asking, in terms of the functional and the insurance, there's no real problem.
Okay, so but what about the diagnosis? I wasn't aware that IBS, that diagnosis was covered.
Oh yeah, no, almost anything is covered. Although I do use Z codes a lot,
Okay.
like the surveillance
codes, right?
They're always covered, they're always good. And then I'll put the Z code and then the IBS code, and it seems to go okay.
Yeah, I think
you're right. There are some companies and some plans that don't cover anything besides diabetes. Well,
yeah, diabetes and renal, or obesity, right? Those the triad, and then otherwise they can be real sticklers. But I think I never dealt with insurance, but I think the Z codes are the way to go from what I know. Okay. So, hey, Gina, in your experience, what % of your patients did not fare well with low FODMAP? Great question, because that's what I hear. Do you find this, Diane, that the GI docs, they'll hand their patients, go on the low FODMAP, and the patient's like, oh my God, how do I do that? And they try to navigate that themselves. So what do you see in that department?
Well, I see that people are like, my doctor told me about this diet and I don't know what to do. But, and I don't have a percentage for you to answer your question specifically, but I will say that I would rather treat the underlying cause, because even the low FODMAP people say this low FODMAP diet doesn't actually fix SIBO. It doesn't actually fix dysbiosis. That's still there. You can ask them, the Monash people, they say that. So the FODMAP diet's great for relieving symptoms, and that's important. But we still got to do the 5R to figure out, to kind of rebalance the microbes in there, because it's the microbes in there that are chomping on FODMAPs and causing, the intolerance. Unlike a food sensitivity where the immune system's involved, the FODMAP intolerance, there's no immune system issue. This is really just a digestive issue that's caused by SIBO or some kind of microbial imbalance. So I'd rather treat SIBO with a microbial imbalance versus giving them a diet that's very, very difficult, and they end up with food fear and, all that.
Oh, that's right. That is such a good point.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Amen. Another amen from Jan. Intolerant of FODMAPs means something else is off. Yeah, that's a Band-Aid. Absolutely.
And it's not just me and Jan saying it's a Band-Aid. The FODMAP people will tell you it's a Band-Aid. I mean, it's just, it just is. It doesn't treat the underlying cause. Should all IBS patients be tested for SIBO? Probably, yeah. Yeah, probably. And they can do that through their doctor for insurance, and then they can do that through us. We can order that test. But sometimes you could tell, right? If somebody is bloated right after they eat. They're gassy. They're more bloated as the day goes on. They wake up with a flat stomach and then they're pregnant at the end of the day. If they have rosacea, if they have low B12, low iron, that's SIBO. And then if they, that way, you don't need a test. But testing is good in terms of, because it's covered by insurance. So why not? In that case, there's no financial downside. But you also can use your critical thinking to find out, like, there's clearly some SIBO here. There's clearly some, but all IBS patients have some kind of microbial component. I can show you studies. Like, they all have dysbiosis, so whether it's SIBO or not. It's all micro. There's some kind of microbial piece, just like there's some kind of stress piece too. Most IBS people have a stress. There's a stress part of it.
I always wonder, like, what is that tipping point, right? Like, some people have dysbiosis and they're relatively asymptomatic, right? And then other people have, maybe a similar level and they're like completely symptomatic. So
Yes.
I was curious, like, what, I don't know. It's probably not even something we can answer, right? It's just in my own brain pondering. Like,
well, everybody's different. Everything has to be individualized. We have to individualize their 5R. We have to individualize their treatment plan. And then, there's some troubleshooting. Not everybody responds. SIBO is a tough one, especially in terms of not everybody responds so well.
I never dealt with SIBO when I had my practice. I was like, no, I'm not your girl for SIBO. But I think nowadays there's a lot more resources than there was back then. So,
yeah, and a lot more knowledge. There's more research.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was like, I just don't know enough. It's interesting because it seems like SIBO is kind of it's a more recent. I mean, I'm sure people had it back then, but like it was 50 years ago, right? But even it's been, I don't know, 8 years, 7 years since I saw a client clinically, and there wasn't a whole lot.
No. I mean, I'm sure I had it since I was 18 and nobody told me, nobody tested me, nobody did anything around antibiotics, and then anyway. So I'm sure my parents had it.
What are your thoughts? Like, because that's what I hear all the time. Like, I still hear people tell me this, like, oh yeah, I have SIBO, I took antibiotics, I feel great. And I'm like, oh boy, it's just a matter of time before it all comes.
I mean, I actually don't hear that much. I have SIBO, the doctor gave me antibiotics, and I still feel like crap. And I'm like, that's because they didn't do the other 4 R's. You know what I mean? And also there's a piece of SIBO, which is the motility piece. Like, there has to be some kind of motility supplement forever, because the motility is always kind of, well, not always, but most of the time it's quite compromised with SIBO. And so it's going to come back unless you sort of optimize their digestion and get the motility working.
All right, got one more question here. Abby, hey Abby, how can RDs order these tests in an outpatient setting?
I mean, I don't know much about, like, if there's a conflict with your outpatient job or not, but I mean, you as an RD, you can sign up with Diagnostics. I have an account with Neurovana. These are home SIBO breath tests. And you're an RD, you can order. And so then, that's it. And then the patients would have to pay out of pocket, as opposed to, we can't order through the hospital the way a doctor could. But so I often encourage my clients to save money and go to their GI and have them order a SIBO breath test instead of doing it through me. And they still have to do it through me because they don't like their doctor, or they don't want to deal with doctors being stubborn and says SIBO doesn't exist. I hear that. But they could do it through the doctor at the hospital, or they can do it through one of these companies, and we are allowed to order from these companies. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Diane, as we start to wrap up, time has flown, right?
I know.
Yeah. So any, I guess, final words of wisdom. And I also want to make sure that everyone listening, both to our live as well as those of you that are going to grab the replay, I want them to know how to learn more. So any final words of wisdom, and where can we learn more?
Yeah, well, you can learn more in general from this millions of sources, right? Like, all the about you. Sure,
about you. Yeah, you posted your
appreciate that. Yes,
website.
healthtakesguts.com, healthtakesguts.com. There's a 4RDs menu item so that, because the rest of it's for the regular population, but 4RDs. And if you click on that, like it'll show you there's protocols, my book, my course, which I think people love. I've gotten really great response to the course, the individual mentoring, and then the group mentoring, which also tremendous. Just people find it so beneficial, so impactful to have that group. So I encourage.
It's lonely, right?
It's lonely.
Like other types of practitioners have that supervision. So guys,
and it's also, there's that confidence piece. I like giving other RDs confidence. There's, you got this, you know what to do. Here's what you can do. And here's also some encouragement. Like the course is kind of so detailed, so densely packed information in the course. And then the mentoring is like, well, let's talk about you and why do you have those doubts? You're good. You're good, girl. Like there's a lot of confidence issues and we're good. It's something we can do.
I love that. Yeah. So anyone listening, I highly recommend join a group, right? Join a mastermind, join, otherwise you're just kind of by yourself, and it's very, very isolating. And and your mind can definitely play games, right? Like you start to second guess. Honestly, we get in our own way. Left to our own devices, I would say most of us can really get in our own way. So love that you've got a group. I think that is amazing. And then it sounds like the course really will and by the way, is that evergreen? Meaning
it is evergreen. The course is evergreen, which is why I created the mastermind, because people want some actual Q&A. But the course is
self-paced. Okay, awesome. So they can, so everyone here can just go and
right up today.
That kind of that foundational training to increase your confidence around gut health. And then I would definitely join your group as an add-on. So any final words of wisdom as we start to wrap up? I know there's so much, right?
There's so much. Just do the best you can. It's good.
The framework of the 5R is key.
Yeah. And learning, getting yourself to learn these things. I mean, whether it's my course or not is not the point. It's just you want to know what you're doing when you're using supplements. You want to know what you're doing when you're, taking people on and off diets. So more training, and then the confidence piece, which comes with experience and comes with mentorship.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Jan.
Yeah, thanks, Jan.
All of you. So fun. This was awesome. I learned a lot. So thanks for sharing your pearls. And so guys, I want to recommend go to Diane's website, healthtakesguts.com. And if you're an RD, she's got that menu specifically for RDs. And
if you're not an RD, but you're like a healthcare professional, that's what that is for.
Okay, for health pros. Yeah, I've got lots of functional medicine practitioners as well. So anyone that needs some support in increasing, your knowledge base, your foundational, probably deeper than foundation.
The course goes deep.
Sounds deep. And so anyway, healthtakesguts.com. And we've got a holiday weekend coming up, right? So I hope you guys, everyone here, everyone catching the replay, hope you guys have an awesome weekend. I am heading up to Michigan, so I'm looking forward to that. Going to visit some family, head up to Leland, Michigan, to the beach. So I'll be spending actually much of June up in on Lake Michigan. So it's kind of become an annual thing. So I'm excited about that. Hard to believe we're already talking June again, right? Like, how did that happen? But here we are, and I'm excited that it's summer. And so anyway, hope you all have a really fun holiday weekend. Be safe, and I will be back next week. Same time, same place. So I'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday. All right, guys, have a great rest of your week. Bye for now.